The black beggar walked up to the auto shop and said, "Can I fix it if you give me food?" Tyler, the youngest mechanic, laughed. "Listen, Grandpa, this isn't a soup kitchen," he joked. The man looked about 50 with messy gray hair and old clothes. But his eyes shined strangely as he stared at the Porsche 911 that had sat with its hood open for 3 days. Marcus, the shop owner, kept writing on his papers and didn't look up. "Jake, call security," he said. "These guys come here every day asking for money." "I'm not asking for money," the man said calmly, his voice strong. "I'm asking for work. I can fix this Porsche if you give me a meal." The shop exploded with laughter. Tyler almost dropped his wrench, and Jake, the senior mechanic with 20 years of experience, shook his head. "Did you hear that? The beggar wants to fix a $200,000 Porsche." But the man didn't look scared. His sharp eyes studied the open engine. Only Sarah Chun, the only woman in the shop, noticed the careful way he looked at it. She felt curious. "What's wrong with the car?" he asked, ignoring the laughter. "The problem," Marcus said angrily, "is that you're standing in my shop, acting like you belong here." The man didn't argue. Instead, he tilted his head and listened to the engine Jake had started again. "Direct injection system," he said calmly. "The fuel pressure sensor is failing. That's why it stalls at high revs. It's not mechanical. It's electronic." Everyone grew quiet. Jake had spent 3 days trying to find that exact problem without success. "Just by listening?" Tyler asked, no longer mocking. "How do you know that just by listening?" "Lucky guess," Marcus said quickly. "Anyone can say that." The man smiled for the first time, but it was a smile full of old memories. It wasn't a guess. That sound happens when the sensor sends bad data to the control unit. The engine cuts fuel for safety. Sarah stepped closer. His confident tone and technical knowledge caught her attention. "How do you know so much about Porsche?" she asked. The man hesitated, then said, "I worked with sports cars before." "Where?" "At the junkyard?" Marcus mocked, making the others laugh again. This time the man didn't smile. His eyes showed pain for a moment, like an old hidden scar. "In many places," he answered shortly. "I can prove I'm right about the sensor. I just need a diagnostic tool." Tyler pointed to an expensive machine in the corner. "Do you even know how to use an advanced OBD scanner?" "I do," the man replied with calm confidence. Even Marcus felt a little interested. "Fine," Marcus said with a cruel grin. "If you're right, I'll give you $20 and a sandwich. If you're wrong, you'll leave forever, and I'll film your failure to post online." The man nodded calmly as if this kind of bet was nothing new. As he walked to the scanner, Sarah noticed something the others missed. His hands were not shaking from fear. They shook from hidden excitement, like he was about to reveal a secret he had carried for years. Surrounded by mocking eyes, he stood tall, holding back something powerful, waiting for the right moment. If this story of prejudice and strength touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What started as humiliation would soon turn into a moment no one would forget. The scanner beeped as it turned on, and everyone in the shop gathered around. They expected to see the beggar embarrass himself. Marcus pulled out his phone, ready to record, while Tyler and Jake joked and made bets. $20 says he doesn't even know how to turn it on," Jake whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. But the man calmly connected the scanner cable to the Porsche's OBD port. His fingers moved through the menus smoothly, as if the machine was part of his own hands. He entered hidden diagnostic levels that Jake had rarely touched in 20 years. "Impossible," Tyler muttered when he saw the man go directly into the engine's control system. "How does he know those codes?" The man ignored them, fully, focused on the screen. The only sound in the shop was the scanner beeping as it read data at high speed. "There it is," he said quietly, pointing. "Code P0294. Fuel pressure sensor outside limits. Exactly what I told you." Everyone went silent. Jake stepped closer, checked the screen, and his face turned pale. "That's..." That's correct, he admitted. 3 days of searching, and this guy found it in 5 minutes. Marcus quickly put away his phone, upset that he had not captured the humiliation he wanted. Beginner's luck, he muttered. Anyone can press random buttons. The man turned toward Marcus with sharp eyes. Do you want me to explain why this sensor fails on this model when the fuel filter isn't changed on time? Marcus froze. He had no answer. Tyler stepped in quickly. Fine. You got lucky this time. But guessing doesn't make you a mechanic. Oh, guess? The man said with a cold smile. I can tell you 3 more problems this car will have in 6 months if they aren't fixed now. How do you know that? Sarah asked, walking closer. Her curiosity grew. The man paused, deciding how much to share. Because I've seen this same pattern hundreds of times. The Porsche 911 made between 2011 and 2015 always showed the same problems when not well maintained. Jake shook his head in disbelief. Hundreds of times? Where could this guy have worked where Porsches were common? The man avoided answering. Marcus was angry. He was losing control, and the beggar was making him look weak in his own shop. He stepped forward. Listen here, Grandpa, he said harshly. This is a real repair shop. We don't need cheap tricks to impress anyone. Tricks? The man replied, looking him straight in the eye. Do you want to see a real trick? Before anyone could stop him, he walked to a BMW X5 that had been in the corner for 2 weeks. That car, he said. You told the customer they need a new engine, right? Marcus froze. It was true. But how could this stranger know that? The problem isn't the engine, the man said firmly. It's the high-pressure fuel pump. That part costs $200. You quoted the customer $15,000 for a new engine. Tyler's mouth went dry. How can you tell just by looking? Because I heard the special noise when you started it earlier, the man replied. He opened the hood and pointed with great precision. See these fuel lines? The wear here, the rust there. Classic signs of pump failure. Jake quickly checked. With another scanner. His face turned red. The stranger was right. My God, Sarah whispered. If he's right, we almost charged the customer $14,000 more for nothing. Marcus felt his grip on the shop slipping away. It's just a coincidence. 2 coincidences in a row. The man's eyes narrowed. His gaze was so strong it made Marcus shiver. It was the look of someone who had once commanded respect. Coincidence, the man repeated. Like when you said my first diagnosis was beginner's luck. The air in the workshop grew heavy with tension. Sarah felt this was more than a simple disagreement. Something deeper was happening here. Marcus tried to act tough again. Do you still want that sandwich? Or will you keep pretending you're a luxury car expert? The man was silent for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with sadness. I have been many things in my life, but I've never pretended to be something I'm not. He started walking to the door. Marcus, angry at losing control, shouted after him. Hey, you think you can come here, do some tricks, and leave like a hero? The man stopped but didn't turn around. Heroes don't exist, he said softly. There are only people who have lost everything and still try to help others. Then, he left the shop. A heavy silence remained. Sarah ran to the window and saw him walking slowly down the street, shoulders bent, as if carrying a heavy burden. For a moment she saw him stop at a missing child's photo on a lamppost. She couldn't see the tear that rolled down his cheek, as he recognized the same innocence his own daughter had lost 15 years ago on a rainy night he would never forget. Every perfect diagnosis, every insult he accepted, every day lived on the streets, all carried the weight of that one night. Everything he did was part of a punishment he gave himself for a tragedy that still burned inside him. The mechanics at Premium Auto Repair had no idea. They were dealing with a man who had already lost everything once, and when someone has nothing left to lose, every new insult only adds fire to their determination. That night, Sarah could not sleep. She kept thinking about the man, The way he studied the cars, the perfect accuracy of his diagnoses, the way he handled the machines like they were second nature. The next morning, she arrived at the shop an hour early. She went straight to the computer and began searching. If her suspicion was right, there would be proof online. She typed the same words he had used: direct injection system, fuel pressure sensor, high pressure pump, Porsche 911 2011-2015. Her eyes widened. These details weren't things normal mechanics knew. They were advanced knowledge, information only engineers or professional drivers would truly understand. Tyler walked in and saw her staring at the screen. "Sarah, what are you doing here? So early?" "I'm researching that man from yesterday," she said, turning the monitor toward him. "Look at this. The terms he used are only discussed in top-level racing and engineering forums." "So what? Anyone can read stuff on the internet," Tyler shrugged. "No, Tyler," Sarah said firmly. "He knew the diagnostic codes. He didn't just read them. He remembered them." At that moment, Marcus entered and overheard. "Are you still talking about that lunatic?" "Forget it, Sarah. It was just luck. A coincidence. Nothing more." But Sarah had found something shocking. On a special racing forum from 2007, a user called Dark Horse Racing had posted long, detailed technical analyses about the same Porsche models the man diagnosed yesterday. "Look at this, Marcus," she insisted. This user predicted the exact problems, 15 years before the cars even came out. "Coincidence?" Marcus muttered again, though his voice sounded less sure this time. Just then, the workshop door opened. The man had returned, but now he wasn't alone. A well-dressed woman stood beside him, clearly out of place in this rough neighborhood. "Good morning," the man said calmly. "This is Catherine Morrison. She owns a McLaren 720S. You told her it could not be repaired." Marcus froze. That case had been his worst failure in months. A $600,000 McLaren with an electronic fault that no shop in the city could solve. "Ms. Morrison," Marcus stammered. "What are you doing here with him?" Catherine gave a cool smile. "I met this gentleman last night in my hotel's parking lot. When I mentioned my car, he gave such a precise explanation of the problem that I decided to bring him here myself." "He gave you a technical explanation about a McLaren?" Tyler asked, stunned. "Failure of the hybrid system control module," the man said calmly. "It's a software conflict between the electric motor and the combustion engine, a known defect in the 2019 models, but McLaren never admitted it." The shop went silent. Sarah quickly checked the computer and gasped. He was right. There was a hidden McLaren service bulletin describing the exact issue. Something only official McLaren dealers should know. Jake walked in just in time to hear. "How do you know that?" he asked, suspicious. The man hesitated, his eyes carrying the same guarded look as before. "I've worked with high-performance cars," he said simply. "Where?" Marcus pressed, his arrogance fading into nervousness. "In many places over the years," the man answered calmly. Catherine felt the tension rising. "Well, if you don't want to fix my car, I can always take it somewhere else." "No, no," Marcus said quickly, sweating. "Of course we want to fix it. It's just that he," the man pointed directly at Marcus, "said my knowledge was just showmanship." The air grew heavier. Catherine was an important customer, and her presence with this so-called beggar was making Marcus feel cornered. "Maybe we can make a deal," the man suggested. "If I fix Ms. Morrison's McLaren, you give me a real chance to prove myself. Not for a sandwich, but for work." Marcus looked from Catherine to the man, weighing the risks. If the man failed, Marcus could humiliate him in front of a wealthy client. If he succeeded, Marcus didn't want to imagine it. "What if you don't succeed?" Marcus asked. "If I fail, I'll never return here." "You can film it and post it anywhere you want," the man said steadily. Sarah's eyes followed the two men as they stared each other down. This felt like more than just car repairs. It was something deeper. "All right," Marcus finally said. "But you have 2 hours. If you don't fix it by then, you're gone for good." The man nodded and walked toward the McLaren. He touched the hood with a quiet reverence, like greeting an old friend. Catherine leaned toward Sarah and whispered, "There's something special about this man. Last night, when he explained my car's problem, it felt like hearing a master describe his art." Sarah nodded, watching as he opened the hood with calm, precise movements. "May I ask, Mrs. Morrison, how did you meet him?" Catherine's eyes softened. He was sitting on the curb, looking at a small photo, crying quietly. "When I tried to comfort him, he asked if I had children." She wiped away a tear. "He told me he lost his long ago and has been searching for purpose ever since." That word struck Sarah like a blow. Suddenly everything about him made sense. The sorrow in his eyes, the way he treated cars as if they were alive, his quiet acceptance of humiliation. Meanwhile, the man worked on the McLaren with complete focus. Every move was deliberate, every choice exact. It was like watching a surgeon save a life. 2 hours passed in what felt like 2 minutes. When he finally looked up, his eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. "Done," he said simply. Catherine started the McLaren. The engine purred smoothly, powerful and perfect. The difference was unmistakable. No more hesitation, no more strange sounds. "My God," Catherine whispered, her eyes wet with tears. 3 dealerships had told her the repair was impossible without replacing the entire module. For $80,000, Marcus stood frozen in shock. Jake and Tyler looked as if they had seen a ghost. But Sarah was putting the pieces together, realizing there was something far bigger behind this man's story. That afternoon, after he refused any payment from Catherine and prepared to leave, Sarah followed him outside. "Wait," she called. "I need to ask you something." He stopped but didn't turn fully around. "You're not just a mechanic, are you?" He stayed quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried years of pain. "I've been many things in my life, but mechanic was never one of them." "Then what were you?" Sarah asked softly. For a brief moment, as he looked at her, she saw past his ragged clothes, past the sadness and resignation. She saw the shadow of a man who had once controlled $500,000 machines at 300 km/h, who had tasted victory, and who had carried unbearable loss. "I was someone who thought speed could erase pain," he said at last, "until I learned that some wounds only heal when you stop running from them." Then he turned and walked away, leaving Sarah with the heavy knowledge that his story was far deeper and more tragic than anyone at the shop could have guessed. That night, unable to rest, Sarah went back to her computer. She searched relentlessly, driven by a suspicion that refused to leave her. By sunrise, she had found the truth. Something that changed everything. "David Williams," she whispered to herself, staring at the screen. 3-time Formula One world champion, known as the Ghost for winning races no one believed possible. On her screen were photos of a younger man with dark hair, smiling, holding trophies, spraying champagne, adored by cheering crowds. It was the same face she had seen yesterday, the man who had been humiliated over a sandwich. Her research revealed the tragedy. In 2009, during the Monaco Grand Prix, a team miscalculation sent his car crashing at 300 km/h. David survived, but his 8-year-old daughter, watching from the stands, had a heart attack from the shock and died in the hospital. His wife, unable to forgive him, took her own life 6 months later. That same year, David Williams vanished. He sold everything, gave away millions to charity, and disappeared. Until yesterday, when he appeared at Premium Auto Repair asking to fix a car in exchange for food. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the shop determined, but she found Marcus holding his phone, recording a mocking video. "Guys, you won't believe this," he said to the camera. Yesterday a beggar showed up pretending to be a mechanic. He was so desperate he offered to work for food. Tyler and Jake laughed in the background, acting out the man's humiliation. The funniest part, Marcus continued, is that he played with a scanner, got lucky, and now thinks he's an expert on luxury cars. I'm posting this. It'll go viral. Sarah's blood boiled. Marcus, you can't post that. Why not? Free content. Homeless man pretends to be mechanic and fails miserably. That's guaranteed views. No, Sarah snapped, her eyes blazing. Because if you do, you'll make yourself the biggest fool on the internet. Marcus lowered his phone, irritated. What are you talking about? Sarah opened her laptop and turned it toward them. Everyone, meet David the Ghost Williams, three-time Formula One world champion, winner of 23 Grand Prix races, one of the greatest drivers in racing history. The workshop went silent. Marcus stared at the screen, then at Sarah, then back again. That's impossible, Tyler stammered. That guy was begging for food. That guy, Sarah said firmly, lost everything after a tragedy. He's been living on the streets for 15 years. And yesterday, you humiliated a world legend because he didn't look the way you expected. Jake leaned in, studying the photos on the screen. His voice dropped. My God, it is him. I had posters of this man in my room when I was a teenager, Jake whispered. Marcus turned pale. But why didn't he say who he was? Marcus asked weakly. Because men like David Williams don't need to prove themselves to people like you, Sarah answered coldly. At that moment the door opened. David walked in, followed by Catherine Morrison and three elegantly dressed guests. Good morning, David said calmly. I brought some acquaintances who wanted to see the workshop. Marcus nearly choked when he recognized one of them. Jonathan Reed, CEO of Reed Automotive Group, the biggest luxury car dealership chain on the East Coast. Mr. Williams, Reed said with respect, when Catherine told me about your diagnostics, I had to see it myself. I want to offer you the position of technical director of our performance division. Starting salary, $500,000 a year, plus profit sharing. That's $2 million a year in total. David stayed silent, his eyes locking on Marcus. Interesting, he said, how people change when they discover who you really are. Sarah walked over, laptop in hand. David, you need to see this. She showed him the video Marcus had recorded, where Marcus and the others mocked him and planned to post his humiliation online. You were going to post this? David asked, his voice low and dangerous. Marcus stammered. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were famous. I didn't know you had money. David stepped closer. Or you didn't know I was a human being who deserved respect? Jonathan Reed overheard and his face hardened. Marcus Thompson, right? The owner of this shop? Yes, sir, Marcus said nervously. Well, I just canceled my company's maintenance contract with you. 50 cars a month, worth $300,000 a year. I don't do business with people who humiliate others. Catherine spoke next. And I'll make sure all my friends at the club avoid this garage. Word travels fast in our circles. Tyler tried to save the moment. Gentlemen, it was just a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? David interrupted. You laughed at my clothes, called me crazy, offered me $20 for work worth thousands, and tried to turn me into a joke for the internet. Which part was the misunderstanding? Sarah pulled out her phone. Actually, I recorded everything yesterday, and I already posted it online, with David's real identity. 15,000 shares in the last 2 hours. Marcus's knees went weak. His reputation, his business, everything was collapsing in real time. David turned to Sarah. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Then he faced the businessmen. Gentlemen, I appreciate your offers. But first, I have unfinished business here. He walked up to Marcus. Yesterday you told me I should know my place. Today, you'll learn what yours is. Jonathan Reed handed Sarah his card. Young lady, if you ever want to work for a company that values character over appearances, call me. As the group left, David paused at the door. Marcus, that video you planned to post mocking me? Sarah posted the real story. Now the whole world knows who truly needs to learn humility. Then he walked out, leaving behind a silent workshop, and 3 men who finally understood the price of prejudice. Marcus looked at his phone. Notifications were exploding. Angry comments, canceled contracts, suppliers cutting ties. In just hours, premium auto repair had become a symbol of discrimination and cruelty. Jake stared out the window. He saw David step into a limousine with the businessmen while reporters crowded outside. Man, Tyler muttered. We mocked a world legend just because he looked poor. But what terrified them most wasn't the financial ruin or the public. Humiliation still to come. The most frightening truth was this. David Williams had planned every moment of those 2 days. He had let them show their true selves before finally revealing who he really was. 6 months later, David Williams was the technical director of Reed Automotive Group, earning $500,000 a year. His rags to riches story became a Netflix documentary that inspired millions worldwide. Premium auto repair shut down only 2 months later. Marcus lost everything: his house, his car, his reputation. Tyler and Jake were fired and left town, unable to face the shame of their viral humiliation. Sarah, the only one who defended David, was offered a place on his team, with a salary 3 times higher than before. Prejudice doesn't just blind the person who discriminates, David said in an interview. It blinds society from seeing the extraordinary talents hidden behind appearances. Marcus tried to apologize publicly, but it was too late. He learned a painful lesson. Humiliating vulnerable people not only destroys their lives, it eventually destroys yours too. David's greatest revenge was not ruining Marcus. It was proving to the world that second chances exist, but only for those willing to give them, not for those who deny them.